Welcome to our first KeHE Transportation panel discussion. My name is Dave Bogertman. I'm the Senior Director of Supply Chain Development here at KeHE, and I have the privilege of doing introductions and then getting off stage. I do want to just make a comment that, as we start this out, we have a live audience, so thank you for being here, but please keep side conversations to a minimum. We are live streaming this to the KeHE Nation. So we want to make sure that you keep the conversations to a minimum, but also those of you who are online, please mute yourself so that we can make sure that we can hear the great discussion that's going to happen. So without further ado, let me introduce our prestigious panelists. So John Dunard. John has nearly 30 years of executive experience in transportation with Coastal Carriers. He's the founder and owner of Coastal Carriers, headquartered in Troy, Missouri. Nate Ross. Nate is the Vice President of Enterprise Sales at ArcBest with more than 20 years in the transportation and logistics industry. He leads a team overseeing ArcBest customers, primarily Fortune 1000 customers. Brad Pinchuk. So Brad is a distinguished entrepreneur and CEO of Hirschbach Motor Lines, headquartered out of Dubuque, Iowa. His introduction to the trucking industry occurred during his time as the captain in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, where he managed heavy equipment for military projects. This ignited his interest and laid the foundation for his success. Thank you for your service. And then Karl Bratnober. Sorry. It was going to have to happen with somebody. So Karl is the Executive Vice President of Trademark Transportation. He's the fifth generation of his family to work in public housing and logistics. Growing up in the business has given him a very unique perspective in the industry. And last but not least, I'll invite Mardi Adourian, our Executive Director of Inbound Transportation, to moderate our discussion. Gentlemen, thank you for the discussion.
Mark? All right. Appreciate everybody live in person, as well as all the members that are on Zoom here. Just some housekeeping stuff. If there are any questions for the people that are here, please email me at marty.adourian@kehe.com, and we'll do a collection of all the questions. And for everybody that's on the web here, same thing. If you can drop your questions in the chat, we'll gather them all with the recording, as well as the questions, the answers. We'll push it out to the teams, and then again distribute as needed here. But I'm super excited, Brad, Nate, Karl, John. It's a pleasure to have you all. And as we all do great things as partners. Just getting the insight and the continued education that you all give us here on either on our scorecard calls or just when we're checking in to see how the business is running. We really, truly appreciate it. I know there's a lot that goes on with us directly as well as you guys' team. So we're really looking forward to get educated here, as well as what you guys are seeing in your space and in the market here in the horizon. All right, I got a couple of things here. Let's talk all things the market. All right, so as you all know, there is a ton of news out there and so through some portals, and we're close to a certain couple of the indicators. So we closely watch spot market to contract rates. So recently, there was a FreightWaves article that read, tender rejection rates have increased by 14% since July. The spot market rates are rising to contract rate levels. Okay, so the question over to you, John, and then I'll toss it over to Brad. What does this mean to the industry? And where do we go when we see spot versus contractor rates go? Where do we see rates going in the next 3 to 6 months?
Okay. First of all, I appreciate you guys inviting me up here. It's an honor to be a panelist. As far as the market, I mean, it's going to be tough to cover briefly. But you can't. You have to respectfully go back to COVID and realize what was happening before. Truck lines were suffering out there, and honestly, there should have been a lot more fallout at that point. COVID did occur. There was a lot of PPP loans that hit the bank, and those truck lines capitalized on that, and and then rates escalated. You've seen contracted rates, spot market rates, of course, always lead, but the contracted rates, you could have went up 70%. When that occurred, there was a lot of new MCs entering the workforce and the contract space out there, contractor space. And so you fast forward that all and understanding what's going on as the markets fell down a lot. The market as far as capacity out there, we're over capacity, but carriers have not fell out as quickly as most would think. Speculative, whether you watch Freightways, DAT, whatever it is, or just no, there's too much capacity out there. So this is trending down. I think in new news out there, the UAW is proposing a strike, and if that occurs, and Wells Fargo thinks that if it does occur, it's going to last 45 days. So if that happens, if you think about all of the material and transportation is going to go into that, moving to auto parts, like coils going down the road, 37% of coils go into the manufacturing plants. So if you take that away, what happens? If you look at the border crossings that's going on, the highest border crossing ratios in Laredo, you take away lanes like that going into Detroit, which is you've seen Celadon fall, and that was one of their major lanes. So you see big fallout. I think it's going to come. The fallout will occur. If that happens, it's going to be quicker and probably needed to flush a lot of this capacity out. So hopefully, unfortunately, that will occur. And a lot of MCs that aren't prepared for this, you'll see it. They'll be the blunt of it. So when that occurs, rates will escalate. I would think, it's prolonged as we thought. But if the UAW thing does happen, you'll see it quickly. So my thoughts. So second quarter, first quarter certainly double digits. Depending on what happens in California, second quarter, you could see high double digits out there. It is probably needed. I would think a lot of carriers out there that are struggling, they're certainly below operating costs now because we're stuck with high cost of assets, insurance, wages went up 33%. Carriers are struggling. So you'll see them fall out, and it's you're going to have those rates push up in order for them to survive.
Thanks, John. Right.
Well, again, thanks for having us. This is really a great event, and it's nice that you're putting this together to get connected and understand what's going on in the transportation industry. It says a lot about the organization. So thanks for putting it together. In terms of the spot rate market, like it or not, this is a very cyclical business. And I've been doing this for 30 years in the temperature controlled refrigerated transportation space. And I've seen a lot of cycles over the last 3 decades. And inevitably, whether it's a good cycle, depending on what side of the fence you're sitting on, or a bad cycle, it seems like they're going to last forever. And this is the new normal. There's been a lot of new normals. But inevitably, whatever cycle it is, it's going to pass, and it's going to go from being a down market to an up market, depending on how you look at it. We've been in a down market from a transportation standpoint for about 18 months, which is a really long time period. So in terms of how long this one has lasted, it's lasted a long time. Most people would say that we've bottomed out. And there's certainly signs, just like Mardi referenced, where now things are starting to uptick. You're starting to see tender rejection levels go up. Carriers are rejecting more freight, so they've got more freight to choose from, whether that's volume levels going up, whether that's the amount of carriers that are out there going down. It's really a combination of both those things happening. And when that converges and you get to that equilibrium point of the supply and demand balance shifting from say the carrier's favor to the shipper's favor, what have you. That balance, in my experience, has been that balance happens for like 1 millisecond, and then it very, very quickly shifts hard in one direction or the other direction. You know, our philosophy as a carrier, and we don't do a lot of spot rate. We don't really change. I'm not saying we ignore the spot market. It's certainly relevant and it's important on what's going on in the industry. But to a certain extent, we try and we don't do much spot rates. So we're working with our customers as partners, really trying to develop collaborative relationships that really, when the market changes, neither party is taking advantage of each other, and we've really built a level of trust that we're going to be able to navigate through those tough markets together, and that we're in it together.
Very well said. I think the partnership piece is critical. As you mentioned, the market, it's not static, it shifts, right? And as we go through those times, you're right, it does favor one end or the other, but through the partnership, there's not that very hard line of, okay, then I leave and go to someone else. Right. You're in it together as the market fluctuates, as we know it fluctuates. All right, pivoting here, more on the LTL side. So again, top stories that you read around all things Yellow and their recent bankruptcy. So the question goes to Karl and Nate here. How does the bankruptcy of a large national LTL provider impact the LTL market? Nate, over to you.
Yeah, I'll start there, and I'll echo what John and Brad said. I appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with this group, and thank KeHE for putting this forum and panel together. So, yeah, I mean, it was a wild couple weeks with that, and I'll put this into perspective. Yellow, when you look at the LTL side, at least like the national providers out there on the LTL side, it's very much an oligopoly, meaning there's probably half a dozen providers there that have a national presence and can go direct there. You know, there's been uncertainty around Yellow for probably the last 10 to 15 years. It's no secret that they've struggled financially trying to get some footing there. But most of your major shippers that are out there, they had a place in their portfolio in some way. And, you know, it was good that there was that uncertainty there, but what that allowed shippers to do was, you know, create contingency plans. They've been thinking about this over the years if something were to happen. And it was probably in a 2-week period there where it was imminent that, hey, something's going to happen. There was a possible strike there. And to put it into perspective, Yellow was the third largest national carrier. There were 30,000 employees there. Again, market share is very much grouped within a small group of providers. So they had about 7-8% of the total LTL market share. To put that into perspective with ArcBest, our LTL division there, ABF Freight, we've got about 3% of the market share. So we handle, you know, roughly 20,000 shipments a day. Yellow at their peak a year ago was probably around 50,000 shipments a day. So essentially there was a weekend to find a place for those 50, probably 30, 40,000 shipments that they still had left in their network. Companies started to mobilize these contingency plans that they were thinking through. I've been in sales for 21 years, and I can count the number of times my phone rang. I mean, it was a good situation to be in, but people were trying to say, hey, what type of capacity does ArcBest, does ABF have inside their network there? And people took a couple different approaches. Like, we were trying to be selective with existing partnerships that we had out in the market, existing customers where we've got a presence inside there, making sure that we're not disruptive to our network. The business that we brought on was the right business. There wasn't a lot of time. These were fire drills. Most companies that had Yellow in their portfolio, they had, I haven't heard this term, but war rooms set up. Like, we've got to find a place for these shipments in the next 2 to 3 days, and how can ArcBest help us out? So, I mean, it was just a flurry of interaction there for probably a week. I mean, that stuff by and large found a home. And, you know, I would characterize the LTL market in general up to that point as softer. So there was capacity out there. But as we worked through that, again, it was a fire drill. These were quick, kind of temporary homes. We're in this process now where that freight is being put put back out to market, kind of more formalized RFP, RFQ procurement processes there. And it'll find a permanent home based on, those shipper needs. Can the carriers that they selected meet the needs that they had? And is that freight that they're putting out there with the carriers advantageous to the carriers? So there's decisions being made on both sides. And there's all kinds of things that can come into play there. Hey, I didn't realize that this customer has over-dimensional freight. I didn't realize that this customer has residential or challenging type delivery freight or on the pickup end. You've got to work through all of that stuff. So I say that to say that, yes, I think it was very disruptive. I think it took people, out of that strategic thinking mode into this fire drill mode to think more tactically to keep the business moving. And I think over the next 3 to 6 months, we're really going to see where that business settles and how shippers plan to move that going forward. Thank you.
Karl, Sam?
Yeah, I appreciate what Nate is saying and share a lot of those same sentiments, and the LTL market being softer at the time, there was room for that, 7-8% market share to be able to move into other national providers. And just like Nate said, there was room there for them to be able to absorb some of that. And I guess where I've thought about the impacts of this is kind of twofold. The first is that there was capacity there, but that capacity can change very quickly for shippers, especially in conjunction with another major economic change, something like a significant hurricane in the south. That can impact food shippers very quickly. So as that capacity is there currently to absorb some of that, there could be in a week, there could be a significant change to that market. Secondarily, I would say, typically or generally speaking, Yellow was a low-cost provider. So I think as I'm looking at the market as a whole, it could change what food shippers are expecting for minimums and how it is that their freight is getting absorbed across other national providers. So there could be an expectation or should be an expectation of some sort of minimums change and how it is that they're budgeting for 24 and how it is that they're projecting, into this upcoming year's fiscal period.
Awesome. Thanks, Karl.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I know that's in a couple minutes here, you're summarizing, but never a dull moment within transportation. That's
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
awesome. All right, John, you'll kick off the next one here. So it's all about labor. You all have heard that we have a shortage of drivers, and this is not new, right? There's been talks of this for quite some time, and then there's projections out there, right? Like by 2023. 2031, where we will be in from a driver shortage perspective. But without rattling the numbers, John, I think the question to you here is, what is your company doing to be able to mitigate some of the high turnover from a driver perspective?
Right. So, there is controversy whether, is there a driver shortage, and it's just, it's there. It's and there's a quality issue. You can get a driver, but you also need a quality driver, a safe driver. You just can't put someone under the wheel. And with all the nuclear verdicts and things that are going on out there, you want to ensure you got the right employee or the right contractor behind the wheel for public safety and things like that. So there's certainly a shortage of quality drivers. And so I think a lot of what's going on right now, if you look back in the Smoking the Bandits days, it was kind of cool to be a truck driver. Today, I don't think you could look around the classroom and go, who wants to be a truck driver? It's just not as glamorous and cool. So, and it didn't pay as much. Since rates have increased, for the wages have increased again. So I think it is becoming an option for a lot of those students exiting high school and looking at different careers and things like that. So the problem with that, though, is when you're graduating high school at 18, you can get your CDL and things like that, but you can't haul interstate until you're 21. So until that number lowers down at 21, comes down, you're not going to see that capacity in your long haul situations, things like that. So We're making efforts as a company to try to make trucking sexy again. We're making improvements on our trucks, trailers, things like that to make it, to lure those guys in, girls too, as well. So, make it a place that is a good option for a career. A lot of those folks in there are entering their career back in at, in their 30s, 35, what we're seeing. So they might have tried something before, or now trucking is coming to be a thing. Hopefully that continues to be the case. We will continue to fight turnover. Personally, we've seen our turnover as we continue to try to put our drivers in the right suit and balance home time with their challenging job. They're over-the-road truck drivers. So if they're gone for the week or gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's very challenging. And then the pay is starting to come up where it makes it worthy. So we've seen our turnover get down in the low 20s, 21. If we could just continue to get that down, where you just see something in COVID where there was a migrant back, switch to different career fields, was to 60. So if we can keep that trending down and retaining drivers, we'll be able to continue to grow.
Well, 20% that's a really impressive turnover rate. When you look at, the industry, a lot of the turnover happens because of the quality of life, the lifestyle. And when you're asking a driver to sleep in their truck for extended periods of time and be away from their families, that's, the over the road side of the industry is where, you're seeing 100% type turnover numbers in our industry. When you get into the LTL side of things, when drivers are getting home on a daily basis and things like that, you start to see, you're probably down 10, 15%.
Yeah, it's 10, 12% is what we see. Yeah.
So, it's all about, if you can get the driver home, if you pay them well and treat them well, you're going to have great retention levels in this, 10 to 20% level. Walmart, for example, Walmart isn't known for, overpaying for things. An average Walmart driver makes over $100,000 a year. Why do they do that? Well, they do it because how important it is to get their product into their stores on time. It's really critical, obviously, to have a product on the shelves. And then you look at running a private fleet and you look at the liability risk associated with a driver out there having an accident. Those are some of the reasons why they do that. Fortunately, in our case, we're our turnover rates collectively in the organization are right around 60% annualized. Now, we have 3 different things that we do for our customers. We do long haul transportation. That's up in the 80%, 75, 80% turnover range. We have dedicated fleets for our customers where those drivers are home, depending on the fleet and the makeup of the fleet. Some of them are home daily, some of them are home multiple times a week, some are home once a week. But those turnover rates are down into the 30s. And then we have on-site services. We're on-site with our customers and we're managing trailer pools, large trailer pools and other activities like that. And those are low turnover rates as well. So a lot of it has to do with just trying to figure out how to get the driver home more often, pay them well, treat them well. Some of the things that we're doing proactively, we're really working on being able to respond to our drivers' needs timely. And, when a driver's out there and they've got an issue, they're having trouble picking up a load, they need the pickup number's not working, or, they've got a flat tire, or whatever the issue is that's preventing the driver from being able to do their job. They've got a question on their payroll, whatever it is. We're really working on capturing every one of those needs, those answers that our driver has, capturing them, measuring how quickly it's taking us to respond to our driver, and then getting feedback from them if they want to provide feedback on how we've resolved the issue for them. We've seen turnover rates come down on our over-the-road side by about 25% this year. through those initiatives.
Just Brad and John, very impressive. Even from the small touches of the tractor trailer, all the things you mentioned, Brad, it all adds up. Just the personal touches to the custom wrap trucks. I mean, I just love always staring at the Costal truck, and the same thing with the Hirschbach. I think when we met last, I might have got a little starstruck on you guys' trailer. So we appreciate that. Yeah. All right, shifting it over to the LTL piece. Carl, I'm going to kick this one off to you. As you know, KeHE suppliers make up more on the LTL side of it. So we'll gear it towards the market, and we'll gear it toward the question will be towards what do we see 2024 going? All right. Where do we see the dry and temperature control LTL market going next year?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think something that we at Trademark are monitoring very closely. And I think to put it into perspective, just like you said, you have a significant amount of LTL moving. That's time and temperature sensitive, being fresh product that takes an incredible amount of touch, and it can be harder to pick up and distribute than full truckloads. So, in looking at that, I think there's, and furthermore, I guess there's your LTL shipments tend to be on the smaller side already. So not only is it a significant amount of LTL, but there's smaller shipment sizes compared to other customers within your space, and that could expose you more quickly and at a more radical rate than some other shippers. So as we're watching that, it's just something to be aware of. Is where are those vulnerabilities? Where are you exposed? And how are those shipments going to continue to move if there is a significant amount of change? We already talked a little bit about tender rejections and changes in the marketplace like yellow. And where we're seeing it in our niche of the market is in a net change to the trucking authorities being distributed, which was really small to mid-sized fleets leaving the marketplace. And if you think about it, if you're a refrigerated driver, are you going to want a one-stop or one-stop trailer load of produce, or are you going to want to do a 15-stop load for me? It's a very complicated and difficult place to see. So seeing those small to mid-sized carriers exit the marketplace can create a vacuum and a change for rates. So I see a change coming, and as it impacts the rates in particular, I think is something just to be aware of. That we're moving into we're in the midst of change and looking at 2024, thinking capacity could get tighter. And then lastly, I think a comment that I would say there, and Doug did such a great job articulating this earlier, is that those sine waves have always existed in the marketplace. There's always been changes. But what we're noticing in LTL is that sine wave is getting closer together. It's becoming more radical in nature, and the market is changing faster in our space. So in looking at that, wanting to button up the hatches, so to speak, take advantage of the private fleet's capacity, consolidation centers that are in proximity to DCs, securing deep levels of partnership with fine folks like this across the front here. Now is the time to really button up the hatches and get prepared for a storm of brewing, so to speak.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like a couple things I'd add to that. The dry side on the LTL, I would say, is very infrastructure, dependent and heavy. Meaning, ArcBest, ABF. We've got 250 plus service centers, and these service centers are cross-dock facilities. There's economies of scale to start up an LTL provider. You can't just throw 250, 300 service centers out there and start handling that. If you look at most of the major providers out there, whether that's XPO, Saia, Old Dominion, they publicly came out in 8Ks. We did too. Shipment counts had increased inside their network due to the yellow bankruptcy there. So carriers are flush right now. This is, again, big industry event. If you've got 7-8% of market share out there and had to find a new home, you're seeing that. It's not real public. You've seen some rolling like embargoes if you dig deep enough with some of our competitors. We've got to wait for that to flush out. The other thing that I'd say, with the industry being so infrastructure intensive there, Yellow's going through this bankruptcy process. There's a lot of facilities, there's a lot of equipment, there's drivers out there, and we've got to replenish that. It's very difficult to build a new LTL facility from scratch. There's all kinds, no one wants a trucking facility in their backyard. So, there's all kinds of federal and typically local restrictions on where you can put these things. But there is some opportunities there within that Yellow portfolio of real estate, one of which, we're looking at some of that too. I think as that gets divvied back out, the carriers that took on some of this business, bring their fleets up to size. You may see some easing, but that would probably be like late 2024 as that all flushes through. But, our take right now is there's probably going to be a little bit continued upward pressure on LTL rates until we get, 3-6 months beyond this disruption.
Yeah. Interesting and interesting, Karl. I think this is the opportunity to perfect those things that you guys mentioned, right? The consolidation of it, how we're forecasting and buying, as well as how we're doing transportation on it, to make it a bit more attractive than just saying, "Hey, I need you to go pick up 15 POs and take it to where you got to take it to," from that perspective.
Right.
All right. So good segue here from a shipper of choice, shipper/receiver of choice. You guys have probably heard the KeHE Inbound Transportation talk about what it will become to be a shipper of choice and what are those things. So this actually goes to all of you. And Brad, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Okay.
From a gold standard of shipper of choice, receiver of choice, what are some of those gold standards of shipper of choice?
Yeah, we actually scorecard our customers internally, much like a lot of our customers will scorecard us. And the things that we look for, I mentioned trust and transparency. We want a relationship. We want a true relationship with our customers. Those are the people that we seek out. The customers that really understand not just cost. Certainly cost is a critical part of the decision-making process, but they really understand value. And when you look at all of the aspects that come into the equation from a shipper standpoint, and besides cost, and you look at reliability for on-time service, you look at weathering these storms that we're talking about and getting through these cycles together without creating major disruptions. Those are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for large volume. We're looking for a lot of volume from our customers. We're looking for our drivers to be taken care of. This week happens to be National Driver Appreciation Week. And, as I talked about earlier, a driver's job is really challenging. In fact, I have a CDL and I occasionally go out on the road occasionally. And it's always just unbelievably eye-opening to me on how difficult their jobs can be. And so anything that we can do collectively as a community, both on our end as the transportation provider and our shippers, to help our drivers out, it really helps all of us, because that turnover we talked about earlier that happens, that impacts all of us, whether that is loads not being able to get there on time, whether it's additional costs that happens as a result of that turnover, it impacts all of us. So the things that you could be doing at your facilities, honoring, appointment times, getting loads loaded timely and unloaded timely, having amenities for drivers, the more the better, but certainly basic amenities like bathrooms. I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes you go to some facility, a driver's there unloading, and they're not allowed inside the building to use the restroom. And there's some sort of, outhouse or something like that that's there that hasn't been serviced in, X number of days or something like that. So those are some of the things that, from a shipper's standpoint, you could be doing to really help our drivers out. We have an app and we get feedback from our drivers at our customers' locations. So that's something that we like to provide to our customers so they have visibility to it. We find most of our customers care about the drivers. They don't necessarily know everything that's negatively impacting the drivers at their facilities. So everything that we can do to help create visibility for that and provide to our customers and the customers that act on those things, it's critical. The last thing I would mention is just ease of doing business. And it sort of touches on what I was saying earlier, what we're focusing on with our drivers on being responsive and timely to whatever their needs are that they need help with. The same thing, we need your help in a real timely manner. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether we like it or not. I mean, this industry never stops. And so if we have an issue out there, there's some sort of claim that needs disposition, a load that we're having trouble getting picked up with, a pickup number, an address we need, whatever the case may be. It's just really critical that we get that information from you very timely so we can then in turn take care of the shipment that you're entrusting us to take care of.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, Brad touched on a bunch of good things there. I'd elaborate on just a couple things. I think the driver experience, we talked about retention of drivers, and this certainly plays into it. If you've got a CDL role that's repetitive in nature, meaning same customers, same vendors, and there is that access, there is that improved driver experience. It helps us with, driver retention there. The other things that I would say, I completely agree. The trust, the partnership, the flexibility, the transparency with the partnership, either that shipper or consignee there. I think that's very important. The ability to share information and data is critically important. And I'll go into, all of our operational systems run off of good data. Many times what we're trying to do in KeHE's example with vendors, but we're trying to get that shipment detail prior to pickup. And we'll start planning in our operation, how are we going to build optimum loads? And that's just not the city P&D route, but that's the next line haul route. And for us, what that does is helps improve efficiencies, helps improve cost. We can take on more capacity. Our system runs in sync. So the information is critically important if we can get that on the front end. The other thing I would add is paydays. Obviously, if there's any latency there with the pay, you want to be able, if you provide the service, be compensated in a timely manner for the services rendered there. But it all boils back down to communication. You want good communication channels. You want to be, make sure that the partnership is mutually beneficial for both parties. And I think anything that we can do to improve that overall driver experience, because anyone with the CDL as a hot commodity is certainly gonna help with kind of shipper of choice.
Thanks. Yeah. Karl?
These are great points, and not just to reiterate them, but in our industry, we got to keep on trucking, so to speak, and not to be cheeky, but it's all about keeping drivers moving. The way that the rates are structured, the way that their routes and bays are structured is all about keeping them on the road and moving. So the more that we can do from upfront planning and accurate information through shipment management, clear communication to back-end timely reporting and payment. Those are all opportunities for us to be more efficient and really serve our drivers well. It's all an opportunity for us to improve. And I would agree 100% that we really think about this in terms of collaboration. Using an app with your drivers is it's an important touch point with drivers to understand their experience to help improve their process as well. And that collaboration with vendors, with DCs, with inbound trans, all of those different verticals, that type of collaboration goes a long way to really improve a shipper standing.
Thanks, Karl. Don?
Absolutely. You guys hit all the points. So nothing left. But I know there's a lot of KeHE folks out there in the KeHE world. So whether it's a buyer or a logistics coordinator or or whoever it is out there, everything that you're doing out there is critical to us. So, and getting with, and you're running your own fleet, your own DCs, your warehouse, your forklifts, all these different things. We're doing the same thing. So everything that you care about are same concerns that we're trying to achieve the same goals, operate effectively and minimize costs. So there might be something left at the end of the day, right? So we appreciate the collaborative efforts and partnerships, all these different things that it goes a long way. So when we are out there looking for a customer, it is a KeHE. You guys are outstanding, and the growth would occur that the way it has, unless you guys are, it's a great organization, right? So, and that's why you got good quality carriers right here. So, and good business partners. I would challenge you guys to, the buyers or whoever else, heck, it's just as Brad's driving a CDL or something like this, you occasionally find me out there in a forklift and things like this, and I'm loading a trailer and this and that, and I'm looking at this imbalanced pallet or something like this. So challenge maybe your buyers or shippers or vendors that hold them to the same standards you guys are, and make sure it's shipped on good, clean wood. So if it goes in a warehouse, it's not just falling all across and things like this. So time is money, effort is cost. So, and that's all got to be passed on somewhere, right? So maybe it's got a good, clean pallet that's stacked evenly. We can stack something else on it and get it in a rack, get it on down the line. We're touching it, you're touching it. It's going in and out of warehouses. The least labor that can minimize. That's what we look on a good partner, just good, clean freight. So, and I got to tell you a quick little story. So, KeHE does care. And I know I'll go over my time limits, but, it was pointed out to me in 2017, I received a call, and one of my drivers had died, and I got a call, and it was from Santa Claus. I'm like, Santa Claus? Tell him it's Santa Claus online. And it was Santa Claus in Stockton. He runs a guard shack. So going back to 17, I knew then that I had a good partner. And KeHE does care. So when you hear that, it means a lot, and it don't forget stuff like that. So that's culture. That's stuff that you guys, it's just not going to occur. You have to cultivate that. So I'll leave you with that. I'm very proud to have been a KeHE customer for over 15 years. And we appreciate Charles' efforts.
Yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate all you, and you guys touch on some great points here. Just as we think about some of those elements, like we think about, right, like you mentioned, what stood out is that some things we take for granted, like something as simple as the restroom. Imagine being on a road and just being able to say, I'm here now, and that becoming challenging and difficult. And then listen, from a perspective of collecting data and scorecarding, we all scorecard our carriers. And I think what's important for us is, as we are partners, and all you mentioned the word partners, and we truly see it that way as well, being able to share that feedback back to us on what our scorecard is, especially in the shipper of choice world, and those elements that were mentioned will be super critical for us to continue to go from good to great and beyond. And then to have, again, more great stories like John that you shared with us. Thank you. All right. So we got a couple minutes here. I've asked each one of them it's a freestyle question. What are you all proud of? Okay. So as we all talk to them on our monthly check-ins and everyone else, I've heard some great things, and some things are just like, they're amazing. There's technology embedded in there. There's facility, there's builds, there's all sorts of greatness. So just at random here, John, I'm going to kick it off to you here. But the question here is, what are you most excited about around Costal and what you guys are building?
I'm excited about my people. We're pretty lean right now, and so we're expecting growth. We're trying to cultivate that. We're running a lot of multi-temps. We're your multi-temp carrier cross country. We do some pool freight for basically LTL, but we don't call it LTL. We're looking to expand into warehousing more. So we're expected to have it's 120,000 square foot warehouse, should be open by 2025 January. That's the goal. And then there's room to go up to 400,000 square feet there. So we're excited about that. We're excited about adding drivers on and investing more in our people and gaining foothold with our drivers and continuing to get good quality drivers and collaborating with good customers like KeHE.
Awesome. John, a question. Have you guys broken ground yet on the new?
We have not. We've had a little pushback. Come to find out, everybody doesn't like truckers. So, but we think we're making headways and we're expecting to break ground very soon.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Carl?
So October 17th, we will be celebrating our 40th year in business, which is a major milestone for us. We're very excited about. It's really has been 4 decades of building, the people, process, and structure that we're really coming to a place we're able to leverage in a new way with new partnerships and new relationships coming on board that really would move the needle for all parties involved, that I think will turn out to be quite a significant thing and a special thing over the next 40. One of those things we're excited about in particular is we've invested heavily into some technology, and we have a utility that is a routing and optimization software that's a part of our TMS that it works in real time and is dynamic in nature, that takes into account a lot of changes, which our world is all about. And it's a unique part of software that has 100 years of our planners and routers experience built into it, our specialization in food industry built into it, furthermore, we get to play in some cool machine learning and AI stuff that is way above my head. I'm just a trucker.
Well, Carl, I know we leverage technology that you guys have, and happy birthday on 40.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is just enriching our partnerships with key customers like KeHE. That really does excite me. How can we be better? How can we be more efficient? How can we improve on those mutually beneficial KPIs? And I think there's a lot to do there. Just like Carl's celebrated anniversary this year is ArcBest's 100th anniversary. So we've been around since 1923. We've got all kinds of cool things going on across our network, trying to celebrate employees. We were out at NASDAQ a couple of weeks ago and got to ring the closing bell, and we had 2 employees there that had been with us for 50 plus years, and it's just incredible to see some of those folks inside the organization. We've got a lot of innovation. We've got a group of folks that work for ArcBest Technologies, an in-house tech group. We've got an innovation center in Fort Smith where we test things regularly. One of the things that we worked on last year was kind of an overhaul network optimization enabled by AI. I'm not going to go into the details either, but I have been told this is going to streamline our asset-based operation. The other thing is we call it SVP, but shipment visibility. We've all been kind of indoctrinated to the Amazon type approach with as a consumer, like, hey, we want to know where our package is all the time. We've collected these data points in our system, meaning, all of our trucks have GPS, but typically our last kind of track was the last place that it was. We want to bring to market kind of those current status updates on shipments. We do a lot of Res-D type delivery. So that's exciting. And then probably the coolest thing is, inside of this innovation center, we're testing equipment for autonomous type vehicles. We've got a partnership with a company called Phantom Auto. And what they've developed is kind of these teleops. In our business, our largest cost is labor. Our largest cost, for transportation is the driver. And, we're not so much looking for the CDL driver, but more inside of our cross-dock facilities. What Phantom Auto, what they've done is they've reduced the latency. So theoretically, someone can operate multiple forklifts remotely, and then it goes remote. Guy plugs in, handles the most challenging move, puts it in place, and then goes and plugs into the next unit that to load that. So really cool place, kind of outside of my scope, but I look at some of the things that ArcBest is just kind of playing in, and it could radically change not only our business, but we're hopeful for the industry. And then the last thing that we're working on there is Box, and this is actually out on the market, but it's a revolutionary way to unload a trailer. Basically, we've developed a hardware and software system that we can offload a 53-foot van or one of our 28-foot pups in a matter of seconds rather than hours. And in our world, you get all kinds of freight type profiles. You'll have mixed commodities inside of a trailer. It can take upwards to 2-6 hours to offload a trailer if there's loose freight on it. So again, super excited about that and what it can do for our industry and even some of our customers. We're exploring use cases with some of our customers.
Nate, and I'm not smiling here because I'm uncomfortable. The technology you mentioned in AI, and it's phenomenal. Just again, when you think of like, it's not just people in trucks and going picking up, it's so much more that's being built. Very, very exciting. Yeah, I know there was a Wall Street article that also mentioned the technology that you're referring to on unloading the trucks. Very cool. If you haven't all seen it, as well as congrats on 100 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Well, we're extremely excited about a lot of things going on in our business. We haven't not quite 100 years yet, but since 1935, our organization's been around. And like KeHE, who's had a lot of success in growing your business. I think earlier when we started this off, I guess everyone could fit inside this room. We heard earlier, and now, I mean, you've exploded and had incredible growth. Our organization has had a lot of growth as well. As I mentioned, I've been in the industry for 30 years. I've been with this organization for 25 years and started working here 25 years ago and was fortunate enough to be able to buy the company starting about 10 years ago. And at the time, we had about 400 trucks and we're doing about $100 million in revenue. And, we've had a lot of growth. Today we're over $1 billion, about $1.3 billion in revenue. So we've had explosive growth over the last 10 years, which is pretty exciting. We look to continue to have growth as we move forward. Our growth has been both organically, probably about 60% of it has been organic. And then we did a large acquisition of John Krishner Trucking last year. And so we've got two brands today, but we continue to look forward to growth in the future, both organically and through acquisition. And the way we grow is by having our customers want us to do more business for them. And that really is kind of where I've spent most of my time in the industry, is working very closely with our operations team and with our customers to really figure out what we can do to help our customers succeed. And there's nothing that gets me more excited than having that collective win where we're winning together. Our values in our company, we call all in to win squared values, and squared meaning win-win. So we really look for those win-win relationships, and we're super excited about continuing to have wins together. On the technology side of things, you heard a little bit about autonomous in terms of unloading trailers and so forth. I'm kind of excited about a couple things going on in technology that we're a part of. Believe it or not, we are hauling autonomous loads today. And a year ago, if someone would have asked me would autonomous trucking happen in my lifetime, a year ago I would have said no. Today I would say 100% yes. We're actually doing it today down in Texas. Yes, there's a driver that's there that's monitoring and someone else in the truck. But we believe we're going to be able to pull out the drivers in less than 12 months on these lanes. And this is between Dallas and Houston and Dallas and El Paso. We're partnered with a company called Aurora, and we're on their board as well. And so where I see technology going in the autonomous space is I see it helping the driver situation. A lot of drivers talk about, this is going to replace, this is going to compete and replace our jobs. Where I see it doing is I see the highways becoming sort of like intermodal with the railroads, where we will pick up truckloads of product and bring them to a depot by a highway, and then an autonomous truck will take it down the highway to another depot, and then another one of our drivers will take it from there. And going back to what I talked about earlier with drivers, having to be away from home for long periods of time and that quality of life creating a lot of turnover. I see the technology being something in the future that's going to allow us to take out that need for the driver from sleeping in their trucks and use autonomous in that line haul segment.
Well, Brad, congrats on the growth, and I know I think in 12 months, if anybody's down, let's all go to Texas because I would love to see something in action. Fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually been in the truck, in the autonomous truck, and if you'd like to go down there, we'd be happy to set up. We get you in a truck, but it is amazing what it can do. I mean, it is looking out 500 meters in every direction, radar, LiDAR, you name it, and it's incredible. It was like seeing the best driver I've ever seen operate a truck is what this was like. It'll just blow your mind away.
So thanks for the invite, and I think that invite is to all of you all as well.
You bet.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you guys. Again, true partners. John, thank you for the partnership. Karl, thank you for the partnership. Nate, thank you for the partnership. Brad, thank you very much for the partnership. We couldn't have done it without you all. Again, we do great things together. Appreciate everybody as well. Just quick plug. Thank you everyone who added some touches, coordinated. Special thanks to Mark, Shelly, Carrie, our marketing team. Derek, thank you very much for making all the audio stuff happen. But I appreciate everybody's time today, and thanks for joining us.